Jennifer Hernandez here on the phone. Jennifer is a new partner with the company out of our Pennsylvania offices. And when Brian and I were doing, why change in the first episode of Change Your World, Jennifer, you were commenting, you were all over the chat, very much so passionate about the subject. And you've made a lot, you and I have spoken, you've made a lot of changes in your life recently. And I'd like to see if you could walk us through why you're so passionate about change and what what those changes have been that you've done in your life.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for letting me share. I can't tell you how welcoming and amazing it's been here at UHM. The growth aspect was one of the biggest things that spoke to me when looking at UHM. And so I'm really excited to get to share, especially so early on. I think the biggest takeaway in looking back in hindsight is that wherever you go, you will always be there. So I'll be 42 coming up in March. I spent 20 or so years going through yo-yo dieting life and just being stressed, working 2 or 3 jobs. And I found myself about 5.5, 6 years ago in a position where, we were working long hours in mortgage world, and I would hit snooze for almost 2 hours, to the point that my husband said, "You're going to have to sleep in another room if you keep hitting snooze this much." And I would always be the last one at daycare to drop off my son. I'd walk into the office with my Dunkin' Donuts and, not look at anybody's eyes. I'd look down at the floor because I was coming in late and uncomfortable, and just a whole different person that I was at that time. And I had a lot of dedication. I've always had a lot of dedication to customers and taking care of the borrowers. And that's probably why I was still working, even though I was in such, if I'm honest, I was a zombie and I was in a funk and I was just going through the motions of life. What happened is I was about 100 pounds, a little about 111 pounds heavier, and I was starting a weight loss transformation. And what was encouraged to me was to transform my mind along with that. And the first book that I was recommended to read was John Gordon, The Energy Bus. And I think that just the first couple days of starting to read The Energy Bus and realizing how much I needed that mindset change in my mind, and just feeling an energy shift, by the week 2, underwriting actually made a comment to me. It was like, "I don't know what you're doing, Jennifer, but you made a whole 180, keep doing whatever you're doing."
Wow.
And a big portion of that was what I was putting in my mind. And I mean, I think we know we have to update our phones. We have to update our computers. We have to, get new data all the time. And it's the same with our minds. If we're not updating what we're putting in, how are we going to get a different output? So we want to have a different life or have things be different, but we're not changing any of the data in the most important tool in our life, which is our mind.
So Jennifer, I'm going to jump in there with you real quick. And I absolutely love this. I love that you made a decision to change your world, and the change that you made fits perfectly with episode 1 of what Susan and I talked about last month. And we love your story. We love the inspiration that you have here, that the starting point of change was the transformation that you made mentally. I love The Energy Bus. I think it's an incredibly strong book. I think everybody that's watching this should go out and buy it. The Power of 5, the power of reading books to change the way that we think so we could change the way that we act. How did that book, Jennifer, begin to change and help to transform your mind and also the results that you were getting in your weight loss?
I think that the big thing was the response I was getting back. I assumed everybody hated me and was annoyed with me because they didn't engage with me. And the reality was I didn't give them anything positive to engage with. I didn't even make eye contact when I would show up at work. So how could they engage with me? And just the simple act of smiling and being open and putting out different and feeling better physically myself put me in a better position to handle what was coming at me in our environment. Mortgages are up and down and always on other people's turn times, right? So I think being at your best self to face anything that's coming at you is what's going to help. I think of if you're driving down the highway and someone cuts you off, depending on your personal feelings in that moment, you're either going to say, oh, I hope everyone's okay, or you're going to have some other choice negative words. And that all stems from you, not the person cutting you off, because the act didn't change. But some days we can let it go and some days we can't. And just, I think, uncovering the power that I was that person in every scenario. Wherever I go, I'm there. And so that's where the power is. I can actually control how I respond to something. Instead of getting upset with something, I can ask myself a question. What can I learn? What can I do? How can I have this not happen again? And be able to learn from it. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means in every situation, but it's so much better when you can have new data to choose from and have new actions to be able to take.
And be aware of it and take
Be aware.
control of your response.
Absolutely.
I love it.
It's
So
great.
you brought up the husband, and we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to talk about this next week, Brian and I. A catalyst, right? And so, what was he the catalyst for this change that you made with the 100-pound weight loss and the mindset?
So I have to say, I am very smitten. I'm very in love with my husband, and he loved me even 100 pounds more. He didn't care if I lost weight or not. What happened was I had to get to my lowest. I would sit in front of my closet and I would cry getting ready for work. I didn't have pants that fit, and I would have my pants open underneath a dress that went down to my knees, and then I would have a sweater on top so you couldn't tell I was like doing all these layers to hide the fact that I have to get a new wardrobe again. I spent most of my 20s and 30s going from anywhere from size 14 to size 28. And that dramatic change, I didn't want to buy clothing again. I didn't necessarily have the extra money to spend, and I thought something was wrong. So I went to the hospital to get tests and see what was wrong. I assumed something was wrong. And it was the result of 2 months of tests that nothing was wrong. It was all what I was doing that made me say I have to change something. So it wasn't even my husband saying you have to sleep in another room if you keep doing this. That wasn't enough for me to make the change. I had to realize, oh, this is on me. And for me, it was the doctor delivering the news, nothing's wrong with you. There's no pill or surgery that's going to change. And then that was a hard day to swallow that it was me. And on the other hand, it was a great day because now I knew I had to make the change. And then so I had to go learn some things. I had to put some resources and people in my proximity, buy some tools, and learn some things. And so I started, one day, one step at a time.
Jen, you talk about some of the pain that you experienced, and we appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that with us. Last month, Susan and I talked about the pain of change, and sometimes we have to hit rock bottom, and that pain needs to be severe enough to where we step out and we act differently, or we do something differently. How long did you go through that pain stage before you started working your way out of it?
I call that the zombie and the autopilot time, because have you ever driven to work and get to an exit and say, oh my God, I don't even know how I got to this exit. Like, wow, I was just in autopilot. I had to be real with myself. And I think brutal honesty in where you are, recognizing where you are and being honest with how and why. I was numbing that pain with watching Netflix till 2 a.m. I was numbing that pain with maxing out credit cards on purchases that made me feel better, like extra things. Those should have been warning signs because I was living beyond my means and living, I didn't have energy to play with my 4-year-old, but I had the energy to watch Netflix till 2 a.m. That should have been a warning sign, maybe, but I was in autopilot. I wasn't aware that I was soothing that hurt. I would say that was probably a 2-year autopilot at the longest. The actual in the pain was the decision of making a stride or not. So that was that 2-month period that I was going to the doctor and hoping somebody was going to fix my life for me. And then the actual, once you make the decision, then is it easy to make a change? No, there's days that you want to go back to watch Netflix or order out, 3 times a day, or just be silly for no reason and say you don't care. But those times are so small compared to how many mornings I cried in front of the closet. And how could I have delivered a better me if that's how I felt personally, right? Like, how could I have given a better version of me to my family or my coworkers when that's how I was feeling and that's what I was in?
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, again, being vulnerable. There's some people right now that I think you're going to impact.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people that might be watching this or listening to this recording that are in that pain cycle. Maybe they're experiencing it from a weight problem. Maybe they're experiencing it from some depression. Maybe it's monetarily. Who knows what it is? But Jen, speak to that person that's listening to this and speak some life into them right now, if you would, on inspiring them, or what would you tell them that are in that pain cycle?
Oh man, I wish I could go back to the me over 100 pounds ago and tell her it was going to be okay and it was going to be as great as it feels now. And I can't. And so the fact that I get to give that gift forward to someone now who's feeling stuck in that situation, who feels hopeless, that person that's maybe you're soothing with Netflix, maybe you're soothing with narcotics or shopping or something of that kind. I want to tell you that I know it's hard. I know it's uncomfortable and it sucks, but you're not broken. There's nothing to fix. It's simply taking one step more than none, taking that one step forward. Thank goodness for you being open to listen to this call and maybe trying just one chapter of the Energy Bus, maybe even just one page of the Energy Bus. Maybe this call was enough to get you started on your journey. I know it's hard. You're not broken. It's just you haven't learned what you need to learn to be that version of yourself that you wish you were. And the fact that you feel stuck or that it's hard shows me that you care to be a better version of yourself, and that's good. And so just lean into that and take that one step. One is more than none. You don't have to change it all tonight. You don't have to go throw out all the groceries and buy all new groceries and sign up for 20 courses. You don't have to do it all. Just pick one thing and take that one step forward and just keep adding it in.
Great advice.
Wonderful.
Great advice.
Wonderful. So Jennifer, this transformation has changed your life, but I imagine that it's also impacted and transformed those around you in some way that know and love you, or that were friends with you in the office, your family, your husband, your child. Talk a little bit about what that does for you when you do that and you impact and transform your sphere of influence.
So I have to start first with my 11-year-old and my husband, because outside of work, when we come home, they get what's left over, right? And when we take care of ourselves and we can come out of the workday in an up or positive place, they get a great side of me, right? And when I'm not taking care of myself, and then they get the leftovers, and they love me and I love them, and I created my son, like I want them to get the best of me. So I am so thankful that here I am 5.5 years later, and my 11-year-old doesn't really remember that 2 a.m. Netflix zombie, right? He doesn't really remember that. So I'm thankful that he has more memories of me playing video games, playing board games, running in the parkway, riding our bikes, that he has those memories. When it comes to the relationship with my husband, gosh, I think about all the times that I would be doing dishes and he would come up behind me and touch my waist, and I would get upset and I would get angry and pull away and start a fight because he wanted to give me affection. And it had nothing to do with not wanting affection. I wanted affection. I just felt so uncomfortable that I didn't want to receive that. And now fast forward to I'm, chasing him down and saying, look at my new outfit. Or, he says he forgot something upstairs and I'll go running up and grab it, when I used to leave things upstairs because I would get out of breath going up a flight of stairs. And those connections and relationships just are more positive because I can give a better version of me to them. And then I would like to think my work environment, that it rubs off. I've seen positive growth along this whole journey. I've promoted from, regular processing to senior processing to team management and training and things like that at my other company, coming into here and processing team lead. Like every level of investing in myself personally, I've grown in my work. So it doesn't only show up in my home life, it shows up in my work life. And it honestly uncovered a passion that I'm an Amazon published author, and I'm in a chapter of a book sharing my story, and I get to talk and inspire others on social media and help them get started in their health journeys or just flipping their mindset. And I get to make a positive impact wherever I go, even if it's just a smile or, a high five for someone getting a workout in or trying something new. And that is like a level of fulfillment that just is like icing on the cake. I don't know how to say it another way. It's just that extra oomph in life that just, it lights me up and gives me more energy. And then I can just be able to give more and more. It just expands. I can't see where the end goes.
I love this. This has been a great conversation, Jennifer. I want to thank you for sharing your story, because to Brian's point, you have to be vulnerable to do that. I'd like you to share your name on Instagram so everybody can go follow you and be inspired by your videos and your energy. I'd like to have a quarter of that energy spread out throughout my day. So go ahead and share that with everybody so they can follow you on Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, sure. I'm an open book. I'm not perfect. Like I said, I do my best to try to inspire and empower and give some useful tips or make you laugh, one or the other. On Instagram, it's the number 2, and then you spell out Be Happy and Healthy, HAPPYANDHEALTHY. And in Facebook land, it's Jennifer, my maiden name Shade, SHADE, and my last name Hernandez, HERNANDEZ.
Oh, great. So go follow Jennifer. It'll lighten your mornings and your evenings, I promise.
Susan, Jennifer's obviously a transformation, and she's a catalyst to transform lives all around her. Next week, we're going to get into transformation. We're going to get into what a catalyst is. And Jennifer, you're a great inspiration to all of us. Thanks for your time, Susan. Great interview. And we can't wait to see everybody next week.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.